It is propitious that today we are bringing you a segment on primary water, new water for humanity. Let me tell you a few things. 2/3 of the earth is covered with water. Only 3% of it is fresh. 99% of all of the earth's fresh water is frozen in ice caps and glaciers. The remaining 1% of the earth's fresh water is all that is readily available for personal agriculture or industrial use. I'll tell you something else. More than 1.1 billion people in the world lack access to clean drinking water. 1 child dies every 8 seconds, and 2.3 billion people are without basic sanitation. The man you are about to meet today is a professional water locator. He has been locating water for 33 years, utilizing an ancient art and science called dowsing. He is responsible, along with Verne Cameron, his mentor, teacher, and great friend, in locating the water in what was then dried up Lake Elsinore. His name is Bill Cox. He is bringing you a discovery that most of the world has no idea exists. He has written the book Techniques for Pendulum Dowsing, Aqua Video, The Psychology of Treasure Dowsing, the original Cameron Orometer. He has also completed a DVD with Mystery Science series, Discover Dowsing, Learn to Bridge Logic with Intuition. What you're about to hear today is that there is a universe of water that is available to those who need it throughout the world that has nothing to do with rainfall. Ladies and gentlemen, the honor's mine. Welcome Bill Cox to It's Rainmaking Time. Good morning, sir.
Nice to be here.
Thank you very much for being here. I want you to tell people, what is primary water and how come they don't know about it?
A primary water, in its origin, comes from above the magma, which is about 2 to 3 miles down below the Earth's surface. And it is created anew by geochemical action, the mixture of hydrogen and oxygen and some other elements, and it is heated as superheated steam, and it ascends up through fractures in igneous rock below the surface, and at times it arrives at the surface of the earth, free-flowing. Old Faithful in Yellowstone National Park, for example, will be example. Here is the steam coming up, and that is primary water. Now, science, because they don't embrace this idea of primary water, they say that all water comes from rainfall, percolates down into the underground, and when it hits this hot part above the magma, it is recycled back up. And that does occur, but that is not the only source. This is new water, and when it reaches the Earth's surface, it is water that is obtainable at economically feasible cost if you know where to find it and how it's done. That's what I do. That's what I've been doing all these years.
One of the things that struck me, first of all, about the discovery of primary water is that most people don't know it exists. How can it be that most of the world does not know it exists?
Well, the formally educated engineers, hydrologists, they go on the principle that all water comes from rainfall and does, again, percolate into the underground and is recaptured by hydrostatic pressure from higher elevation in lands underground, where the water comes up in through aquifers, kind of like a underground stream bed.
For those of us who don't know, what's an aquifer?
An aquifer is really like an underground stream bed. It's usually made up of cobblestones, rocks, gravel, sands, and soils. And the whole principle of it is that they believe that this will collect in places, and they call them water tables or ponds underground, and they hope to drill into those sources to get the water for the surface. But the trouble with this water supply that it can be overdrawn, and it is also subject to the vagaries of weather. In areas where there's little or no rainfall or a lack of rainfall, these sources tend to dry up.
We have droughts all over the world in many developing countries and non-developing countries even. And I understand through reading your material that you can locate water even in earthquake faults. How does that work?
In fact, earthquake faults are my friends. Again, with conventional engineering, I've been advised on a number of occasions you'll never get water in earthquake faults, with engineers standing around telling me while well drilling's going, but we get water anyway in earthquake faults. But the earthquake faults act as conduits. The fractured rock provides channels for the water to flow through in all directions, horizontally, diagonally, and vertically upward.
Do you think that by locating water in earthquake faults, you could cause an earthquake?
Well,
I mean, some of you got to be thinking about that. He's in an earthquake fault. He's locating. He's finding, but we're getting rumbles. Could that happen?
Well, that's coming more like from oil. They think that when they're drawing too much oil from the underground,
yes,
it does create subsidence, which then causes a possibility of earthquakes, like Terminal Island area and Long Beach and so on.
You also have stated that this water is into perpetuity and inexhaustible. How is that possible?
The earth is really, a good part of the earth has a tremendous amount of hydrogen and also has the element of oxygen. When you put those two together, you got H2O, which they teach us in grammar school or the early education. And you mix those two and you got water. And we're talking about primary new water. That's why it's been named primary.
How far do the engineers and the drillers have to go? I mean, is there a certain, do you go 200 feet, 50 feet, 500 feet, thousands of feet of drilling?
Well, a primary water is formed, in most cases, very deep in the earth, but it can be all the way down to the magma, which is, again, as I mentioned, about 8-9 kilometers, a couple miles, 2-3 miles. My job, and what I do, is to find it where you can capture it at or near the Earth's surface.
Most people also have never heard of dowsing, also referred to as water witching. I would imagine that many people in Colorado and in other areas of the world are unfamiliar with it and possibly suspect, because if you don't use the conventional method of engineering, geology, and drilling, that how is it that you're doing what you're doing? I think first it would be good to explain, what is dowsing?
Mm-hmm. Well, dowsing goes back, you can find evidence of it in the Bible. And in ancient times, Egypt and Sumeria and some of the civilizations that go back thousands of years, you'll see that they use pendulums and rods, divining rods. And I prefer to use the word divine instead of witching.
Okay.
But anyway...
I am corrected.
Well, no, that's all right.
No.
It's commonly used. People
Yes.
ask me if I'll witch a well, and I say, no, I prefer to divine a well or douse a well for you. But anyway, witching has a negative connotation, particularly in religious
Context.
I
agree with you. As long as you don't call me a witch, I'll let you talk about divining.
Yeah.
How's that?
That sounds good. Well, divine gets closer to the angels,
Explain it, because it's really
Sure.
could be pretty obtuse and out there.
All right, well, actually it's been found, and most anyone can do it, but with differing degrees of skills or ability or natural tendencies to douse for water. And basically, its most primitive form is cutting a fork switch or a wand, a green limb from a tree, and holding it before you. And when you get over water, underground water, the wand or switch will respond. And in some cases, it's quite dramatic. The switch will just wave up and down and even peel off the bark in their hands when people are holding a fork switch. So there is some kind of a resonance that occurs between the wood and the water itself. But actually, you see, we have water in our bodies in the form of blood or fluids, and so we are water persons. And so there is an affinity with like kind. And so it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be holding water in your hand. You can reach out beyond, because there's water in the atmosphere right now. We're breathing vapors and so on. So this is a connection. We're all interconnected with water, which is a universal solvent. And they're looking for water on Mars when there's already water there, we know, because they're finding it out in the cosmos. Water, there's vapors out there. The astronauts have encountered it, and there's vapors in the cosmos that have created ice on the moons of Saturn and Jupiter. And where did the ice come from? That's water, just in a more densified form.